Hey everyone, it's Lisa from Primitive Gatherings, and thank you for joining me for month number 2 of our mini quilts. So I just want to show you and remind you that this was month 1, and this was released April 23rd. And if you missed that one, you can go back and get that as a download. The current one is, so this will be our May release on the 23rd. So if you're watching this, you can probably go download this right now for $5. And once they are done, so on June 23rd, this one will become $12 as a download or printed pattern. And the new one will be $5. So each month they are $5 until the next one comes out, and then they will be $12. So make sure you put a little note on your calendar to download the $5 patterns. So 2 colors on this one, and this one is called Mini Maze Quilt. So you can pick any 2 colors in your tower or that you want. Actually 3, right? Because we have a background in here. So I'm going to make one of the blocks for you today, and all I did is pick 2 fat quarters that have been starched that were just in my bin here. So I have them right here. You know what? I'm going to layer them right sides together, and then I can sew them easily. So on our download, it'll tell you how many strips to cut and what size to cut them. I'm not going to tell you that because that's in the pattern, and that would be giving you away a little bit too much information. So I will be looking at my pattern over here, and what I suggest is for the increment that you are using, that you make a little chart so you can cut backwards like I always like to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off an edge here. And remember, you know, don't do what I do what I tell you to do, one of those things. But I like to cut this way. I'm just going to just show you that I do. So I'm just going to trim that and cut that away. All right. You can move it over and trim it that way, but I like to do it this way. All right, so I'm going to put this on my measurement, and I'm only going to cut half the strips needed, or maybe I might cut them all, I don't know. But I'm just going to cut my strips for what my pattern tells me, but I'm going to leave them nice and tight together. I'm not going to move them around too much because I can stitch them right together because I put them exactly what it told me to do. Now I'm looking at my little chart here so I know what those measurements are because I wrote those down. All right. It's kind of hard when I can't tell you all the specifics, but you all understand why I can't. And hey, just a little thing about cutting. When you cut, you should make sure that your arm is in line. So I got to move my iron a little bit over here, but this should all be in a straight line. So you're not trying to do this. To have this arm right in line with what you're cutting. Now I just move that over a little bit. So this is a nice natural movement instead of trying to cut like that. All right, so I easily cut everything I needed for the whole quilt right there, except I'm going to need, and I'm going to come over here and cut those. I'm going to need 4 squares to complete my block as well. So I'm just going to cut those out of here. I'm going to trim off my selvage, and then I'm just going to cut those squares easily here. And then get this out of the way and cut this again. So if you don't cut backwards, what I mean by that is find out what your measurement is that you're cutting and slide backwards. So whether if I'm cutting 4 squares here, I added up 4 of that cut and I just slid that back instead of cutting, picking up your ruler, cutting again, picking up your ruler. So easily I have those squares right there. So I'm going to need these for the 1 block, but you're going to need a lot more for if you're making all 9 of the quilts, 9 of the blocks. All right, so now that I have those together, I'm going to read my instructions, and it's going to tell me I need to sew a couple strip sets here. So I'm leaving them nice and close together. And I'm setting my stitch length like a little bit less than 2, a smidge smaller than what you normally stitch a regular size block at. Because these are a little bit smaller, I want that stitch length a little shorter. And of course I have a 1/4 inch seam guide on my machine that you had to purchase extra for this machine. But I'm just going to sew all of the strip sets that I need, and then I'll come back. All right, so I'm just going to slide my hand down that seam to get it, open it up, and then I'm going to sneak over to my iron and just press that seam open. You could, you know what? No, I'm going to go to the dark. I'm going to go to the dark. I don't think we need to be open because this whole thing is going to nest nice. But if you love to press seams open, you can do that as well. It's just a little bit more fussy pinning that way. So I have one. Now I have another one here. And I'm just going to lay this down. Flip it open and press it to the dark. All right, now I need to stitch a dark onto one of these, and I always like to line up all of my selvages on the same edge. And then a light one on this one. So just a strip set. One light, dark, light, and the other one dark, light, dark. And I unthreaded my machine. Super cool. All right, here we go. All right, always to the dark. I'll just give it a quick little finger press that way. And then a quick little finger press that way. We can all right. So now it says to cut these. And I'm just going to kind of, make sure I got that one pressed out good. There, I didn't have that end done nicely. So I'm just going to lay these together, and because they're opposite strips, they should like lock right next to each other. So So let me just line those up. And then I like to press them. Once I get them laid on top of each other, I like to press that. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here, grab one of my rulers, trim off an edge. Am I in a good spot? Or should I move it up?
Move it up.
All right. So I got a nice trimmed off section here. And then I'll move that over. And I'll just trim these to the size it says onto the pattern. And I don't need a bunch of them, so I don't need this whole strip, but we'll just cut them. One more. All right. So let's just cut a couple more just in case I need to. I'll put it right about there. I don't think I need more than that. All right. So hopefully you know how to cut backwards like that. All right, now I have to look at my pattern a little bit, and I need to lay out my little block. So these are, because you're going to make a total of 5 of the dark blocks, but I don't really need those. So I'll just slide this over a little bit and build my block pretty much right here. Okay, so it says I need this guy here like this, and I need 2 of these like this. So one like that. All right, so I need those 2. Sew those together. And then I need a 9 patch for the center. So that's going to look like that. I need one of those.
Push that up towards me.
What's that?
There you go.
One of those. And then I need 2 more of those. Okay, so that one, I need 2 units of that. And then I need, again, oh, there's my salvage on that one. That's why I always cut extra. I need another one of these. All right. Okay. These are the units I need to sew together for 1 block. And I'm going to need these guys. Okay? All right. So I'll quick stitch these and be back. Nine patch. All right, so there we go. So now you can decide how you want these to go, but I'm going to press these open. on the 9 patch. And I just want to point out that for pressing open, these strips come in handy very nicely because it doesn't mess up any of the other pieces on your block. Okay, now I need to build the block. Well, I need to add these guys here. So this goes like this. And then this one goes like this, right? And then this one, I believe, goes like that. But let me double check, because remember, I did one of these wrong not too long ago. So I got to make sure I got it right. All right, looks good to me. So now I'm just going to stitch this, and then I'm going to add the third one onto the second row when I do a second row. So whether you're new to minis or you're a master of minis, these are so fun to stitch and to quilt them yourself, however that looks, whether you do meandering or straight line quilting. All right, now I'm just going to add the next row on to these. One more. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to press these out, and this one I'm going to press those in because then they'll oppose there. Or you could press them open depending on what you like, what your preferences are. So those are both going in opposite directions, and then this one I'm going to press into the middle. All right, so there we go. It's coming together nicely. And I know some of this will bug you if some are going this way and some are going that way. That does not bug me at all, okay? So I am perfectly fine with not having every fabric go the same direction. So if you don't like that, don't pick a stripe. Otherwise, it takes too much time to figure out what's going where and all that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm pinning the main intersections where the blocks come together. So that's what I have going on here, and that looks really nice too. I'll just put one more in the middle there of that one. And then you can pin the ends if you want. I tend not to pin beginnings and ends. And you see how I pin toward the seam when I'm stitching it so I don't have to stop and take them out while I'm stitching? I pin it so that 1/4 inch just misses that tip of that pin. So if I would hit it, it's not going to do any damage because it'll be just the tip of it. All right, do my intersections again. Check that one because it's hanging off the end there a little bit. Yeah, I could probably move that over just a smidge. There, I like that better. All right. There we go. All right, last two seams are going to go open, flatter. I almost always, those last rows in a block, those last long seam rows, I almost always press those open, just to distribute all of this seam allowance in half instead of it all going one way. All right, so let's flatten it out here. Okay, so I've made one block. Now, if you want, I never measure my blocks when I'm done. I just assume they were right? But if you want to give it a little bit of a trim here, we can do that. Looks like it was supposed to be 5.5 when it's done. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a trim to trim off those threads. So I kind of line up the corner, and go from there. So sometimes it's a little smidge that you can trim off, because I don't care who you are, nobody's perfect. And sometimes you get a little bit of a bow. This one here, probably from pressing it a little bit too strong, I had a little bit of bow on it. But there you are. There is one of the blocks out of the 9. So you will continue to make 4 more of these and then 4 more of the alternate color. Simple, right? Well, I hope you enjoyed this mini. And remember, you have until 1 month exactly, until the next one comes out June 23rd, to get this as a $5 download. Thank you very much for joining us, and I can't wait to see your finished quilt tops on Stitch with Lisa Bongean on our Facebook group.